Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chills, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Hello, Root of Power family. I hope you are well. I hope you are thriving. I hope you are ready to get some hella good downloads from my friend Nikki Pepper, which is such a fun name. Like such a fun name. She is crushing the health and wellness game. She lives in Miami. I'm hella jealous of the view from your condo. She like looks out over the beach and I'm just like, I need a sugar daddy so I can also live on a condo on a beach, even though I choose to live on a farm. So I want both, but that's here nor there. So Nikki does something really interesting in that she combines a lot of holistic wellness with fitness training, which is something really no one does. So kudos to being a leader and an influencer. Welcome, my dude. How are you?
Yes, I'm so great. Thank you for having me as I'm overlooking the ocean, feeling very well over here. But yes, it's definitely been quite the journey in my own personal life with finding all of these holistic ways and really learning through my intuition what's worked best for my body, what is working best for my clients' bodies, and really taking the approach not just from the body standpoint, but it really starts from your mind, body, and soul to really make sure all of those things are aligned so that you're truly feeling like your best self.
I feel like a lot of people say holistic and what they mean is like, what they say is like, oh, make sure that you sleep. Make sure that you sleep when you work, after you work out. And it's like, that's not truly holistic. You know, they don't talk about mindset blocks. They don't talk about the psychology behind personal development and why it's so hard. Because a lot of people that hire trainers, hi Kitty, a lot of people that hire trainers are also into personal development. And so they don't talk about things like that. So what is holistic coaching? Like, what does holistic health and wellness really mean? Like, what areas are we talking about?
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned it can be many different things, and people tend to have a different focus or a different like primary, aspect that they focus on. And I found that when my original kind of start in the fitness industry, I've been in sports all my life, gymnastics all my life. And growing up, kind of to backtrack, growing up doing gymnastics, I competed at a very elite high level. And when I really learned about the mind and body connection was starting when I was like 7 years old, getting ready for these really high level competitions. We actually had like a team psychologist, and that was the part of our training. Like we would sit in a room, we would visualize, we would like work on goal setting and all those things. And that was really what I learned, that the mind is always primary. And if you don't have your mind in check, like we don't care what the body's doing, because the body will listen to what the mind is telling it. Yeah. So even with my clients, like I take way more care to learn their whys, learn their deep, their dark fears around like why they're feeling this way about their bodies, because I don't care if you look great. If you don't feel good about the way you look, then what's the point? So really taking the mind as the primary approach is kind of how I see fitness and wellness as all encompassing. And then the third piece being also our nutrition, which is what we're putting into our bodies, because you also are what you eat.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love all this. Now I find something that I see a lot of, and I don't know, I assume that you do, but I want to talk about it, is people who say, well, the gym is my therapy. The gym is my outlet. The gym, I lift weights for therapy. And I'm just like, bitch, you actually need therapy. Like, I love you so much, but fucking go find a mindset coach, go find a therapist, like go find someone to help you work through your dumpster fire life. Because if your only outlet, if your only release, I don't know how to phrase it, is the gym, but you're only dealing with the physical body, and people forget, because we don't talk about it, that the physical body is your brain, because your brain is a muscle, your brain is an organ. My cat is being so needy right now. Everyone on YouTube is gonna love it.
I'm like, where's Coach Joe? Coach Joe's gonna come in for a cameo at some point.
Oh, by the way, Coach Joe, for those people that don't know, is Nikki's cat, and it's so funny to me every time I see, and you're just like, Coach Joe sleeping on the job, and he's like sleeping on the couch.
He does the workouts with me. He's on the mat too. He's here for the moral support.
Right.
So I can actually touch upon my own journey with that whole like using the gym for therapy, because that is kind of like, that was the first step in my journey. So I always like to compare however I helped myself along my way is whenever I found a tool, a resource, a method that was like, wow, this has changed my life. That has been my purpose to like share those things with my clients and with other people. So I started getting into like weightlifting in the actual gym when I was at college at my university. I would go down to like the university gym. My boyfriend at the time was a personal trainer, so he taught me a lot before I got all of my certifications. And I found that it was helping me so much from not only I wanted to look good, because like you're in college, you're like, yeah, I want to look good, like, etc.
Hot girl summer, but all the time.
Hot girl summer all year. But I found that when it was like midterms, I was like, I got to get to the gym and like get this stress relief out. But it still wasn't enough to have me like forego that mental breakdown that comes with like the stress of school or interviews or whatever it is, you know, as you progress later in life. Right. So I was like, as much as this is helping with stress, and from a physical standpoint, it does do those things from decreasing your cortisol levels and things like that. But when you're not addressing the root cause of the issue, two pieces there, which I can get into later in more of the energetic healing, is that physical trauma and things are actually stored in your body. And unless you're moving through that energy and finding ways to like release it through energy, not just through movement, then those things are going to stay stuck in your body. And same thing from a mental standpoint, if you are triggered by something from your childhood that has happened that you might not be aware of, that's why you're acting a certain way. I don't care how many reps you do, like you're not going to change that deep internal fear that you have over like deadlifting. Like you can't, it just doesn't work like that. Like
you can't communicate with your partner better through deadlifts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be a little less stressed, but you're still going to have that same deep down fear or belief, whatever is causing those feelings. So as I kind of progressed along my journey, the second piece was my nutrition that I started to dial in. And definitely different foods can mess with your emotions as well. If you're having like too much sugar, you're going to be on a sugar high and then you're going to have a sugar crash. Are you eating things that you're maybe intolerant to that you didn't know of? That's all going to affect your mood. And then from the energy and the mindset piece, a lot of, like I said, that stuff gets stored in your body, and you have to remove that through different energetic methods, which we can get into later. So it starts with that fitness, but you got to have all approaches to really hit it from all angles.
Yeah. And that's so true. And a lot of, and there's a lot of stay in your lane too, right? Like if a fitness coach doesn't know about energetics, like obviously you should not be their therapist. You should, there are lines and there are lanes that we want to stay in, but not even addressing them, just giving people. And something I see a lot in a big hullabaloo that I have with fitness influencers is, and I use the term influencers loosely because I think coach is totally different. They'll sell these canned programs and then they're not addressing energetics. They're not addressing anything other than, hey, do this workout. And they're even not building balanced workouts. So I just interviewed my coach, Allison McHale, who does like very balanced. We're working on weaknesses. We're working on structural imbalances, but a lot of people don't. And I think because people don't know, because fitness is so overwhelming, there's so much information. And then don't even talk about adding on like mental health or energetics. Like that's a whole other drinking from a fire hose. And it's so much. So people really get lost and they get conned by so many people and they don't even know.
Yeah.
They don't know. And it's so sad. And so I love that there are coaches like you who are, one, understand what holistic means because it's a big buzzword. I'm a holistic coach. Sleep well. Is your life toxic? Okay, then we can't work out. Like that's not real. That's not a thing. Are you so anxious that you want to vomit every time you wake up in the morning? Bro, you're not getting in the gym.
Yeah.
Like that's not real.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times, especially with my clientele is I work with like a lot of like busy executive women that are like just crushing it. And I'm like, you're crushing yourself. So a lot of times most people are trying to do more than they actually need to. I'm like, less is more, like keep it simple, like don't overdo it. Like some people I'll have to tell, like, you're not working out, you're going to do a meditation today. Like the workout's not going to help you, go back to bed.
They then like wig out. What do they do?
It takes time to build that trust, but because I've brought them along the journey, they trust that I have their best interest in mind. And I've definitely been on the other side of things too, as like a client from, let's say call it business coaching. And my coach is like, take Sunday off. I'm like, but I can't. She's like, take it off. I'm like, okay, I will. So definitely in terms of having the person coach you through it. And I love that you mentioned like the cookie cutter stuff, right? It's like every body is different. Like what works for one person won't work for another person. So a lot of times, like just one example on like the nutrition standpoint is people will ask me to like make a meal plan for them. And I'm like, I won't do it because I don't know what works best for your body until we like work one-on-one. Like I won't do it unless it's in a one-on-one capacity.
Right.
Getting to know like maybe, a lot of times, like one example of this is what does your body like run the best on? It's going to be different depending on like your ancestry, like where you're from, your chemical makeup, like all these dispositions. For example, for me, I was lucky enough to be in a few like scientific like research studies with some registered dietitians a few years back. Awesome. And it was pretty cool. They used me as the guinea pig because they knew I would do everything like to the T. So Perfect. We did a couple like aerobic capacity tests, and I would change the amount of carbs and fats I was burning. And what we realized from the data was like, I'm like a carb burner. Like I do really well on carbs. So for example, back in the day when I was trying all the different diets, like I tried keto and it was the absolute worst thing for me because my body does not burn fat well. It burns well on carbs.
Crazy.
So when people are like, oh, like, should I stay away from carbs? I'm like, do you know how many carbs I have a day? If I didn't have this many carbs, I'd be a mess. Like I wouldn't be able to even show up for my workout. So I really like to have people, getting into using their intuition, like what feels best for you? Like, when do you feel best? Like tune your attention in and your body is going to tell you exactly what it needs.
Right. Which is so funny because when people, and I get that a lot where people are like, what should I do? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? And they hate it. They hate it. Or they say, well, what do you think about this? And I go, it depends. Yeah. Usually my answer is like, I don't know, try it. If it sucks, stop doing it.
Yeah.
If it's great, keep doing it. And I think people forget. They're taught not to use their intuition, right? So like lots of people have such a shut down feminine energy because we live in the masculine and we're capitalists and we have to grind and kill ourselves. But a lot of people literally are never taught to listen to themselves. A lot of my clients were never asked their opinion as children, like literally ever. So obviously they're not developing an intuition. And if you have ever been, in a abusive relationship, if you chronically diet, so it can even be things that are so stressful like that, like chronic dieting shuts you off from your body because you're trying to force yourself into something. Chronic exercising shuts you off from your body because you have to make the workout because it's on your plan and you can't miss it, even though you're exhausted. Like there's no room for the magic. And so because intuition is really what I see, the absolute most powerful resource people can have, hands down, bar none. I don't give a shit. People can fight me on it. I don't care. Come fight me. Come at me. But intuition, once people develop that, suddenly doors open. And something really interesting, and I don't know if you see this too, something that I find as I take my clients through the process, of therapy and coaching, once they start stepping into their intuition, once they start following it, really trusting and following it, shit just happens for them. Like doors open that they've wanted for so long, but they were so misaligned that the universe was like, nah, bitch, you ain't ready. But as soon as they start listening to their intuition, and they'll tell me, they're like, yeah, things just happen. Like people just, they meet a great partner, they get a promotion, they find their dream house. Like it's crazy. And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, you're in alignment. This is so exciting.
True.
And I don't know
have so many examples. So many.
Give us some.
Yeah. So, oh yes, I love that you brought that up. Like with with your intuition, it's like the way I like to describe it to people is like your gut instinct. So it's like
Mhm.
what you think like without thinking. So
Yeah.
a lot of the people I work with tend to be like overthinkers, and I used to fall into this trap, and I have to catch myself like, no, just trust your gut. Like the first instinct's going to be your best bet.
Yes.
So it's like I teach them like not to overthink, or I'll be like,
Which
whatever
is
the
so
like
hard.
the first thing that comes to mind, like just say it, don't think about it, like first thing.
Right.
And they're like, oh, purple. I'm like, great, it's purple, it's your crown. Like we got it. No
That's
problem.
so
Like
funny.
so just telling them like not to overthink and to like trust themselves. And I think we have a
Mhm.
lot of work to do on trusting ourselves and trusting our bodies, which is a whole
Yes.
part of it, is building that healthy relationship with your body, because your body is the source of a lot of your intuition, a lot of your feelings. So
Right.
it's about opening yourself up to trusting yourself. And I love that you mentioned like those things just started happening to them and coming into their
Yeah.
life. So whether it be, I like to think, so with my methodology is I kind of combine like the science and the spirituality. So I've been like very much, like I said, into psychology since I was a 7-year-old, like young
Yeah.
gymnast. We had like a psychologist as a coach, which was a very special experience. But
Yeah.
like one thing is like I go back to that foundation is like the mind is primary and the mind rules all. If you can convince minds that something is already happening, your mind doesn't know the difference between imagination or if something is true.
Right.
So it's like your mind will find ways to connect that and make it true. So let's say it's like,
Good or
okay,
bad.
good or bad, exactly.
Mhm.
So one this is like a silly example, but it's always the first one that comes to mind from like a random personal one. But like a couple years ago, like I was like, oh, I want to get rid of my car and get a scooter like down here, and it's just like easier for me to drive a scooter around. I like wanted to get rid of my old car, and like never had I like thought about it. And then all like once I made that decision, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start looking into it. Everywhere I went, there were scooters everywhere, and then like all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, this one's on sale. And it's like, oh, that's the one I wanted. Like, perfect.
That's
Like,
crazy.
and that's a really silly example. But even with like my clients, we were focusing on like her career, like a promotion, and things like that. And she's like, one of my clients is a nanny, and she was like walking around, I don't know, Boston, and she was like, there was these girls on the sidewalk like selling lemonade, and then she's like, oh, I'll buy some lemonade, and then like the mom came out, and she like they were looking for a nanny, and she was like looking for
What?
nanny gigs, and she was just like wandering the streets like shopping, and she's like, oh, I just got a new job, like guess that sorted itself
That's
out. Like so
crazy.
it's like, yeah, and when you're aligned to those things, things will just start happening for you. You just have to be open to it, which
Yeah.
applies to like your goals, your body, and like what you're looking to achieve with your life and your goal setting.
Yeah. And it's people usually do the opposite, right? Is they'll manifest what they're afraid of because that's what they obsess over. What if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And then they make it come true. And it can work in
Yep.
the negative. So like I have a good number of clients who, when they first see me, believe that they'll never be in a healthy relationship. They'll never be happy. It's not for them. Other people are happy. My ex-husband was like that. He convinced himself so hard that he would never be in a healthy relationship. He ruined our marriage single-handedly. Like it can work the other way too. So if you believe that your body can change and you can be healthy and you can become the person that you want to be and you can get the job and you can live in a condo by the beach and you can whatever, then your brain and the universe, right? The universe conspires to give you what you obsess over. So if you're obsessing over how it's hard and you can never do it and it's for other people and it must be nice to be them who can hire a trainer and do all this shit. Like, okay, you're right. You're never going to get it. And you know what?
Yeah.
That's on you. But if you obsess on, well, maybe it's possible. Let me just envision the life that I want. Let me envision the body that I want. Let me envision me deadlifting 250 pounds, 400 pounds, 600 pounds, which would be nuts. That's a lot of weight. Let me envision running a 5K and see me completing it. Then you're going to do it because you're right. The brain doesn't know. So if we spend all of our time trapped in a prison of fear, then we're going to see danger everywhere. But if we see abundance everywhere, if we see possibility, right? When you're like, hey, I want a scooter. Obviously now you're paying attention to scooters. And if you're looking for opportunity, you're going to start seeing opportunities everywhere. If you're looking for healthy food because you're like, oh, I want to eat healthier. My body's a temple. I'm going to take care of it. You're going to start seeing healthy food options everywhere. But if you say, well, you can't eat out at a restaurant and be healthy. Well, you're right. You're going to prove yourself right because you're going to ignore, I don't want a salad. There's other options.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love too, one thing that I learned recently too is like, you don't need to know the steps all along the way. You just need to know like what you want, and your mind is going to put together the pieces for you. And kind of going back to like trusting your intuition, is it's like, it's going to catch your eye. Like you're going to receive these little signs or little things that it's like, oh, that caught my eye, because your mind, your subconscious was doing this whole scanning and looking for it. And then things that you wouldn't have noticed, like you'll see, just like you said.
Right. It's really wild how that works out. Like, so one example is I'm from Florida originally, and I wanted to move to North Carolina. I knew I wanted to move to a farm. I looked literally every single day for 2 years at every single farm for sale in the state of North Carolina for 2 years. But I was like, I am fucking moving to North Carolina on a farm. I want this range of acres. This is what I want. I live in my damn dream farm now, but I would have lived in any dream farm that I bought because I would have made it. So I think when because I get a lot of people that say, what if I make the wrong decision? Well, I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. But the other half that when you trust yourself is you also trust yourself enough to say, well, any decision I make, I'm going to make the right decision, because I would have built the life and the business that I have on any farm, because it's not entirely dependent on the farm. It's dependent on me. So when people are learning to trust their intuition, I think one thing they don't know, because a lot of people they're never taught this stuff. Thank God you're teaching it. Is that whatever decision you make, you're going to make the right decision because you're going to continue making the next right decision.
Exactly. I love that too. And a lot of times too is things might work out even better than you expected. So like whenever so this kind of goes back to the trust, things that, in terms of like also things that fall away from you to like open space for new things to come in. In the past, I may have been scared or fearful, like, oh, I lost this client, or like, oh, I was supposed to go on this trip and it got canceled. It's like, I fully trust that the universe, or whatever you want to call it, is making things happen for me. So I'm like, okay, this client's not here, like something bigger is coming in, or like I was not ready for this, so like something else needs to happen before this thing happens, and just trusting that what's meant for you won't miss you. So just having full trust, and just like sitting and being open to the possibility that what is in store for you is going to be even better than you've expected. If you had asked me, like if I end up here, exactly. We're like, no, I want it to be this way, and this wasn't what I had planned.
And the universe is like, we degav.
Yeah.
We don't care. So how did you get into the energetics? And you do sound bowl healing, which is so cool. Like, how did you
should I pull over one of my bowls and do a little demo on the live?
Oh my God, don't tempt me with a good time.
Yes, I'll pull
I don't think a lot of people have ever heard of it. Like, so can you explain what it is? And then how did you get into it?
Definitely. So let me grab it, because I feel like we need a visual. It's right over here. Yes. I'll grab I'll intuitively pick one from the stack over here.
I love everything about it.
Yes, we're on the live. We're on the live.
By the way, you should do YouTube videos of those.
Yes. So I used to be into YouTube pretty big. I like accidentally grew my YouTube following. I don't know how it happened. But I'm doing an IG live tonight. So here's the sound bowl. I have my AirPods in, so hopefully you can still hear it. It's pretty loud. So first I'll go into, I have a set of these singing bowls. So in terms of like vibration and frequency, this will be a little bit of an explanation, but I always like to, again, take like the science and the spiritual side of things. So
spirituality is science though.
Yeah, exactly. Everything has a vibration, and everything has like life force energy that's running through it. So like my voice has a vibration, like the sound of the car going by has a vibration, and we're picking up all these things throughout our day. So if you're in a place of like let's say someone's like really angry, like you can feel that like heaviness and like they're uncomfortable, your body, you're tense, you're like, you just want to like run away from that person. And you can feel when someone's like super light and happy go lucky and like easy to be around, like those have two different feelings. And a vibration is simply like a feeling, and it's waves that run through you. So with the stinging bowls themselves, there's a few different components that add to the healing experience and why it works. So in terms of the brain, our brain has different brain waves, right? So if you ever looked at like those graphs, like little like polygraph of someone's brain, when you're in your like tense kind of like conscious state, you have those fast little waves. Then if you were meditating, you'd have slower, bigger waves. And then when you're really asleep, you got like those deep, deep and restorative brain waves that your brain needs to like make those neural connections and form those things that are our thoughts, our behaviors, our beliefs, and how we act in life. So with the sound baths and the meditations that I do, the first part of it is getting people into that like subconscious state so that they're actually able to like receive the healing that they need to receive. If your monkey mind is all over the place, like you're not going to be able to be as receptive to it. Right. So step number one, if I can just get you to be in that state, you're already going to be in a better place, like if nothing else. And that's just like the first step. From there, the waves act in either like resonance or dissonance. So the sounds actually interact with like your own waves. So when you are in resonance with something, the waves are like the same height, the same amplitude, the same distance. If you're in dissonance, they're kind of mismatched, and it creates this kind of, if you heard someone who is really like bad at playing music, it's like, oh, like this doesn't sound right. Like that would be dissonance. So we want you to be in resonance and just in this very nice, flowing, peaceful state.
Okay.
The sound waves themselves, in terms of the way they hit your body is made up of water, molecules, minerals like calcium, your spine. So the waves of the sound are actually like penetrating through your body, through the water, and like into your physical body itself. So you can literally feel it. Whether you're listening to it or if it's in person, sometimes I'll even put it on like my client's chests, and I'll like do like the sound bath like on their body, but you can feel it running through your body. And then each of the different notes, so I have a set of 5 singing bowls, and they're a full chord. So it's like a G chord. I have like an A, a C, a G, like all the way up. And each of the different notes hits your body differently. So if I know someone is having like anxiety in their chest, I'm going to use like a different pairing or emphasis on a different note more than another note, knowing that that's like the problem that they're dealing with.
Okay.
And then the last piece is that each of the bowls are made up of different materials. So this one is made up of literally like rubies infused into it. So I have ruby, I have emeralds, and each of those crystals have different healing properties. So it's a whole bunch of things coming together for these sound baths. And then I also do Reiki, but that is kind of a separate piece, but we'll give a little demo so you know what I'm talking about here, and let me know if it's loud. So let me know if it's like too much.
That part's not coming through.
Let me hear. How about this? We're going to do.
I heard the ding, and then when you're wrapping it around.
How about now?
It may be too loud.
Anyways, I'll send a sample.
Send a sample.
Yeah. I'll send a sample.
Or people can just tune in to your Instagram.
Exactly.
And your IG.
Yes. Well, that's when the waves come off, but
that's so
basically
cool.
All those components together can be targeted for different things, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, of course, combined. And then the other piece that I also add into it is Reiki healing. So Reiki is an energetic technique, Holy Fire Reiki from Japan, and kind of going back to that life force energy. So plants, our cats, ourselves, we all have this energy running through us. And from a scientific perspective, you can tell like the plant gets grown from the ground, it's taking the nutrients, and it's a living, breathing organism. So we all have this energy running through us. And a lot of times we'll have imbalances. So if you call it chi, like in like Chinese medicine, ki in Reiki, or just like energy itself, your energy can be misaligned, or you have different blocks depending on what you're going through. And with the Reiki energy, you basically channel it from life source. And then whether I do it with the sound bath or without, I can sense using my intuition where someone has stuck energy. So if I were to do an in-person session, I would actually run my hands over them. And if you do this with your hands right now and just rub them fast together, we'll do it together. And keep rubbing, and then hold them just 1 inch apart. And you can feel your hands tingling. And then slowly start to make it further and closer. It almost feels like a magnet, further and closer.
That's...
And then even further, make the ball even bigger. And imagine like there's a ball between your hands.
Wild.
And even further, and the more you press in, the more you're going to get that resistance. Even bigger, the more you press in, you're going to feel that resistance, like it's stuck between your hands, like a ball of Play-Doh. So everyone has this energy running through them. If you're a Reiki practitioner, you're a little bit more attuned to the energy.
Sure.
So feeling your hands over someone's body, you'll get this kind of hot sensation or tingles where it's like, ooh, there's like something there. So we focus on removing those blocks. And when I do it remotely over Zoom, I tune in and I feel on my own body where I would feel on them. And kind of going back to like a lot of your work that you do with your clients, it's like whether you have like abuse or you have a childhood trauma or something, like that's going to get stored in your body somewhere and it's going to affect you. And that's where the energetic work comes in, so that we can realign that, clear that block, and then really have people feeling good and aligned so that they can be their best selves.
Okay, all of that is amazing.
I'm like, hold on, give me 2 minutes.
Right? I'm like, my brain is exploding.
Yeah.
Everyone go back and rewind, because that was really succinct too. So like, because I think people don't, if they're not in this field, they don't understand really how macro energetics and sound healing and Reiki is. Like you gave a beautiful explanation in like 10 minutes that takes years to go through. So thank you. I wonder if you have people, once you start doing Reiki or sound bath, if you have people who will start having panic attacks or nightmares. It's something I run into a lot. And it's something I actually warn all my clients about now, because I didn't realize until I started seeing enough people and started seeing a pattern that because energy gets stored and humans are pressure cookers, it's going to come out. So once you open a door that has been slammed shut, and you put furniture in front of it and you're like putting all your work into it to hold the door shut. Once you open it, a lot of my clients will actually experience panic attacks or nightmares. Panic attacks, anxiety attacks, same thing. So, but they'll start experiencing that. So I have to warn them that now. I say, hey, listen, you're going to go through a period and it's going to suck. And like, I'm sorry, but I'm not, because it's progress.
You're going to feel much better after. I will say with the Reiki, so it's interesting. I would say with healing work, and I can attest to what you said, you're like, it's not fun, it's not pretty on the way out, but you're going to feel much better. So
but then you coast, man, and it's so much easier.
And you feel lighter. Like one analogy I could think of if you had like, I don't know, you ate something and your stomach was hurting and you're like, gosh, like my stomach, like it's sitting in your body, and then like puking it out isn't going to be fun, but afterwards you're like, oh, I feel so much better. I'm so glad.
Or you take a giant shit.
Or a giant shit. Dump it. You're just
like,
out.
I feel so much better.
So
it's like
better.
Therapy, same thing.
You're like, no wonder. With Reiki, it's pretty gentle. With my clients, mostly they don't have as much panic because it's very soothing, but I will say they feel really weird. I'm like, you're going to feel like really weird for a few days. Like you're going to feel like something's off. And I'm like, that's totally normal. That's okay. But not too much on the panic attacks or the nightmares. Their dreams might be really vivid though. They definitely can start to see visions. Oh, and that's another thing with the Reiki experiences is it's like a specific guided meditation. And I tell people too that when they're in that state, whatever sensations, feelings, visions, sounds like come through, that part can be a little bit scary. Like for me, I'm like, I go to the cosmos and back. I don't know where I went, but I was somewhere else. So like, I find that some people will have really like wild, like they feel like they're floating, like they're having this super vivid, like almost lucid dreaming. And other people might just be like, oh, I felt a little relaxed and a little bit tingly. Like there's a whole range, and no matter how, what they experience, whatever they're meant to receive through the healing is like the exact like dose or amount that they're meant to. And
which again is intuition. Like, you get what you need out of it.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of times with like a lot of the focus of my sound bath. So I focus a lot on the 7 chakras, which through the different phases of your development, if people aren't familiar, you have 7 different main chakras and then other ones throughout your body. But from your root, which is like all the way at the base of your spine, your sacral, then your solar plexus, which is your stomach, your heart, your throat, your third eye, and then your crown. Each of those have different properties and are developed at different points in your childhood, which is where a lot of our thoughts, behaviors, and like trauma comes from. And like, for example, the root is developed like when you're in the womb and like your first few months of life, whereas like your top chakras are more like when you're a teenager and you're like learning to become like who you are and like speaking your voice. Like you don't really get to there until you're in like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. So a lot of my work focuses on that and where people are holding that in their bodies. So like one example, if someone, maybe they're having a hard time like speaking up for themselves, or they have a big, like they have really fear of like public speaking, or it's affecting like their work, I'd be like, okay, we got to work on like your throat chakra because you're not voicing your opinions. Or your solar plexus, which is like where your stomach is, that's like your willpower. So if someone's feeling like they aren't able to, like they don't have that willpower to push through, your root chakra, which is like your survival, like that fear. So when people have that fear, which leads to how I combine everything. So this is a good little transition.
I was just going to ask, how do you combine?
So because these are in different parts of the body, there are different parts of your body that you can move through movement that's also going to be paired with the sounds and the sound healings that I do. So the root chakra is all about like feeling safe and feeling grounded and like that fear of just living. Like you're an infant and you're like, you just need to live. So a lot of times what I do is I have people do like grounding, like foot mobility, ankle mobility, things like having barefoot training. Like if we're working on the root, I'm like, you really need to feel planted into the earth. So I'm going to have your feet on the ground. If it's your solar plexus, which is like your core, like your willpower, I'm going to have them do more like ab exercises so that they're really feeling like their core and they can activate it. So if it's their heart, I'll have them do a lot of like chest and back so they can like feel that heart space open up and like stretching like a cat cow, and then combining that with the sounds. And there's also different food groups that you can combine. So like for your root, you want to eat like root vegetables, beets, things like that, foods that are red. So combining all of those things, that is the holistic, intuitive approach to health and wellness.
It's so deep.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I need to go back and listen to this one.
There's no details that have been overlooked here.
Dude, that is nuts. How many people, like, what's your structure? Do you do group programs? I think you have an app.
So I do group and one-on-one. So I don't have an app itself, but I host everything in like a private Facebook group. So there's also that like community aspect. Cool. So with my group program, I am revamping it. So I have some exciting things coming out. So the program is called Health and Wealth, but like WELL-TH, like health and wealth, like instead of like health and wealth. Yeah. Health and wellness.
Oh my
because
God.
Your health is your wealth, right? Like to feel abundant, you have to like,
I'm so proud of that.
Healthy. So with my group program, we have a weekly live call, and this is like, it's my favorite class to teach. So the format of class for that group is we start off with a 35-minute dumbbell strength training workout. So really releasing that stress, like we talked about, like getting those cortisol levels down and getting that physical component in. Then we transition into about a 10 to 15-minute sound bath healing. And what's special about this healing, so I'll kind of take this two different ways, but for the live class, what I do is everything is done to the group containers, like collective, like what's everyone needing. So at the beginning of the week, I'll ask, like, what are you guys feeling? What are you guys struggling with? And it might be, let's say, I had, like this past week, it was like two really interesting ones. It was feeling supported and then getting comfortable with being successful, which I thought went hand in hand. Like a lot of times we're like, oh, success, but some people like aren't comfortable with like feeling successful. So
most people aren't.
Yeah. So I'll take whatever, I'll survey the group, and we're so in tune with each other that like everyone kind of has like the same things like at the same time. And it's so aligned, whatever. I'll usually pick 2 to 3 intentions of the week. And then I hold that space in the container for the clients during the workout. So if you ever take my workout class, you got to like go into one of my IG labs and take it. But I am like so pepped up. It's like a motivational like mantra of like, you're successful and look at you feeling supported by the ground and the weights. And it's like whatever they're telling me, I'm just like channeling and putting it into the workout. So as I'm speaking it, they're moving their bodies and hearing these words come through. They're releasing all that stress from the day. Then we do a cool down stretch. And again, let's say if it's focused on, maybe it was more security, we might do more stuff that's going to make them like feel that way. So we do the stretch, then we transition to the sound bath. The sound bath, I'll use those same words, and it's all just intuitively led. Like I'll kind of tell a story, or I'll take them through like, envision yourself, your future self is already successful. Like you're already doing the thing, like you're so supported just by being here. And I'll put those intentions into the sound bath. And then the last portion of class, we do a Q&A and a teaching topic. And that portion is primarily focused around nutrition. So many topics on nutrition that I talk about, but it's definitely more of that, like eating whole foods, trusting themselves, no calorie counting, no meal plans. Like I teach them portions with their hands. Did this feel good for you last week? Like, how are your energy levels? Like, are you sleeping? So, and then I open the floor for questions for whatever is coming up. So that's like the main format of the live class for the group. And then the preset program that they do on their own time is the chakras and the paired workouts that I was talking about. So each week or every other week, we'll have a different chakra. So we start at the root. All the other, 2 to 3 to 4 workouts that they're doing on their own are going to focus on those things. And then the live class is for more like timely things that are happening like right now. So
this is nuts.
Yeah. So that's the group program, which opens in January. Right now I'm teaching it, but it's just for my current container. And then we'll be adding, I'm going to add a designated meditation. So the group right now is on Wednesday nights. And I think I'm going to add a second live on Tuesdays just to do more of the healing work. So TBD on schedule. And then my one-on-one clients, it's essentially exactly what the client needs. So just rather than in a group setting, I'm really working with them one-on-one. We have a one-on-one, weekly coaching, I call it a coaching call, but it could be a workout. It could be a sound bath, whatever they show up with. It could be just talking. It could be stretching, like whatever they need. I never plan that session. It's whatever they show up with. I'm like, great, this is what you need today. And then they also get access to all of the group things as well.
Awesome. That is I'm just like speechless.
Yeah, I'm hyped because like I've been in the fitness for a long time.
Nuts,
it's
dude.
not been done. It's not been done. It's
I don't
revolutionary.
know anyone who does it.
Yeah.
Hell
bringing it live. 2022.
Marrying the physical and the woo woo.
Yeah.
We love it.
It works.
Oh my God. You need both. Like, they are connected, and so many people disconnect, and then they wonder why they float through life. Even the language we use. I feel like I'm floating. I feel like I'm lost. You're not grounded. You have no connection.
Yeah. And the best part is all the clients, all the members need to do is just show up, and I do all the work for them. I hold the space. Like, as long as that person is continuing to show up, there's no need to be afraid. There's no need to feel like I'm not sure what I'm doing, because I've gone through the process myself in my own healing journey. So I can empathize with what they're going through, and I can really coach them through all those challenges of feeling like not enough or they can't do it. And it's like, as long as you're in that space and they continue to just give their best with what they have for the day, that is enough. And they're going to guaranteed to see a transformation.
Yeah. And I think showing up is just so much of it.
Yeah.
So much of it.
And a lot of times too, I think it's often overlooked that there's a lot of like fear and anxiety around just showing up for workouts. I have many clients that are like, I was afraid to work out until I started working out with you, because I'm like very nice and bubbly and like welcoming. And I'm like, you want to keep your camera off. If you want to just do the stretching, like just show up to this container. I don't care if you sit there and just watch us work out, like just come to the call. Come to the call. Sit and watch.
It's like getting in the gym. If you walk in, you're probably going to lift a weight. And you know what? If it's not that day, I have driven to the gym and then gone home. And I'm just like,
you tried.
I did my best.
And
my best was not walking in today.
Exactly. And I tell them too, it's like, whatever you have through the day is always enough. And like, some days you're going to feel like a superhero and sometimes you're not. Like, even last week I was like getting ready for my trip, and I was like, like I could do like 8 workouts today, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do all the low impact today, because I'm going to lead by example. Your girl is tired. She is not jumping, not jumping.
She's not jumping,
not doing it. And that's what I got for the day. So I love it. And I just
go ahead.
No, that was all I was
going to say, how do people find you? If they're like,
I need this help as well. So definitely the number one place to reach me would be on Instagram at Salt and Peppa. I'll spell that out. It's SALT.N.PEPPAH, or on my website, Nikki-Pepper.com. All my contact info is up there. So would love to get some people kicking off 2022 with some real health and wealth.
They may miss it because this won't come out until 2022, but they have the whole year to work.
Yeah, exactly. So with my program too, I do have it as it currently stands as on rolling, because I never want someone to say like, hey, you know what? Like I wasn't ready. Now it's February and who knows what the heck they got going on in life. Like, you're always welcome to reach out, and I'm always happy to get them kind of caught up to speed wherever they need to be.
I love the evergreens.
Exactly. I have some bundles too. I got some like, one-off downloadable things that are also helpful, but that main program that I just talked about, that's the bread and butter. And then I have other little side samplings, but you want the main course. We're fueled up here. You want the main course.
Right. If you're going to do it, jump in and swim.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love oh my God, this was so good, dude. Okay. So find you on Instagram or Nikki-Pepper.com.
Yes.
Your shit, people. Like, what? This is nuts.
And tonight we got,
if people forget everything that you said and they only hear this one thing, what would that be?
Good question. Good question. I would say to trust in yourself, trust in the process, and just keep showing up.
You're so good. You're so good. Dude, thank you so much. This was beautiful.
So fun.
Okay, podcast fam, go be good.
Yes. Love it.